I was driving into the studio today, and I was just scrolling at a red light, which I know, don't do that. And I just felt this specific kind of heaviness. Yeah, it wasn't just the news. It was I don't know, the sheer categorical exhaustion of it all.
Categorical exhaustion. That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It feels like the price of admission to, well,
Yep.
everything now is that you have to pick a team. Are you rural or urban?
Mm-hmm.
Tech optimist or a Luddite, team A or team B?
Right.
It's like we're constantly being asked to just flatten ourselves into these little cardboard cutouts.
Well, it's interesting you say that because what you're describing is, I mean, it's a known psychological burden. Our brains are what they call cognitive misers.
Cognitive misers.
Yeah, we crave categories because it saves energy. It's just easier to say, you're X, so you must believe Y. But the problem, and I think this is where your exhaustion comes from, is that the modern world has sort of weaponized that impulse.
Weaponized it. That's it exactly. And we're messy. I'm a mess of contradictions most days. And that is exactly why I wanted to pull today's source material.
Ah, okay.
We're doing a deep dive into a set of writings that just dropped today, February 11th, 2026, from the author Jimmy Perez.
Perez is a fascinating choice for this. He usually writes about, tech or culture, but these two pieces, Red, White, and Blue Heart and Super Bowl Performance Thought, they feel really personal.
Almost aggressively personal.
Yeah.
And I want to set the table here because, look, I know as soon as people hear Super Bowl or Red, White, and Blue, their blood pressure starts to spike. Our mission today is not to talk about the halftime show. We are not breaking down the set list. And we are definitely not talking about specific policies or voting records.
No, absolutely not. We're treating these texts more like a sociological case study. How does one person hold two, seemingly conflicting identities without ripping himself apart?
And he has this idea that I think is the key to all of it.
Which is?
Exposure softens the heart.
That's the headline. Exposure softens the heart. A great place to start.
So let's get into that first piece, Red, White, and Blue Heart. Perez starts us off with this really cinematic visual.
He does. He takes us back in time. He's a young man driving his car, and hanging from the rearview mirror is this small Puerto Rican flag. He says it was dancing with every turn.
I love that. Dancing. It's so alive. It's his rhythm, his heritage. But then flash forward.
Right. Today, February 2026.
Now, he describes his home. He's got a full-sized American flag on the front porch, a decal on his truck that's catching sunlight and dust.
And if you're using that cognitive miser brain we talked about, the immediate question is, okay, so he switched sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did he trade the little dancing flag for the big porch flag?
Oh.
Did he, assimilate, erase the past?
But Perez just stops that line of thinking cold. He writes, and this is the quote, not replacement, not contradiction, just chapters of the same heart.
Chapters of the same heart.
It's a perfect example of what sociologists call additive acculturation.
Okay, pause. Additive acculturation. Unpack that for us, because that sounds like a grad school term.
It is, but it's a simple idea. The old model was assimilation, which is subtractive. You lose the old to gain the new.
You stop speaking the old language, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Additive means you keep the old framework and you just build the new one right on top of it. You don't lose the Puerto Rican rhythm, you just add the American road.
Puerto Rican by rhythm, American by road. That's the line he uses. It's so good.
It's brilliant because rhythm is internal, right? It's in your blood, your history. But road is your journey, the physical miles you've put in. He's saying your geography doesn't have to erase your genealogy.
But okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Huh.
That sounds beautiful on paper. I am both. But in the real world, don't people kind of force you to choose? Isn't it a bit naive?
Oh, absolutely. The external pressure is real. He even admits that the world might be confused looking at him. But his internal state is what's resolved. He says, 2 flags stitched together in the story I've lived.
Stitched. That's an interesting word.
It's doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah, stitching implies there was a tear. It implies it might have hurt a little bit to join them.
Exactly. It wasn't magic. It was work. And that brings us to the how. Because he wasn't just born this way. He says he didn't learn this from a textbook.
No. And this brings us to what, for me, was the most surprising part of this whole thing. He explains his change in worldview through country music.
I actually laughed when I read that part.
I think everybody did. Because it's such a cliche, right? The person who says, I listen to everything but country.
It is a cliche, but listen to why he hated it. This is the key. He says he used to laugh at it. He called it noise. He thought it wasn't for him. It was the other.
And I think so many of us can identify with that, not just with music, but with anything. You look at a subculture,
Mm,
NASCAR, anime, whatever, and you just go, that's weird. That's not me. That's noise.
exactly. It's what psychologists call outgroup derogation. You dismiss what you don't understand to protect your own identity. It's a defense mechanism. My stuff is serious, their stuff is silly.
But then Perez moved.
He moved. He talks about living in Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee.
And he makes it clear he didn't just, drive through on the interstate. He lived there.
And that distinction is everything. In social psychology, there's this concept, the contact hypothesis. It basically says that prejudice is reduced by meaningful contact between groups.
Yeah. So just standing in line at a coffee shop next to someone different doesn't really count.
Rarely. It has to be sustained. Perez talks about long roads, hard work, quiet nights. He started actually experiencing the things the songs were about. He was tired in the same way. He was driving the same dark roads.
And then he says, suddenly those guitars sounded like home.
Because he had the context. He decoded the signal. What was once noise became a narrative that he was actually a part of.
He builds this axiom from that experience, and I highlighted this like 3 times. We judge what we have never touched. We fear what we have never heard.
Touch is the key word there. It's tactile. He talks about meeting people living off the grid, mountain men, farmers, people who, probably had very different views than he did.
Right. And he says, they owed me nothing and taught me everything. That's such a humble position to take. He's not saying he went there and enlightened them.
No, he's saying they expanded his reality. And notice he says they didn't need his acceptance. They were just living their lives. But his heart grew wider with every handshake.
Which is the antidote to that binary thinking we started with.
It is. You can't maintain a caricature of a person when you're shaking their actual hand. The brain has to short-circuit the stereotype and just deal with the human in front of you.
Okay, so we have this foundation. He's stitched his identity together. He's learned that exposure creates empathy. Now we have to pivot to that second piece, the Super Bowl performance thought.
Right, because this is where the rubber meets the road.
It's one thing to learn to like country music. It's another thing entirely to deal with the cultural climate of 2026.
Which is tense. And Perez sees it. He describes the nation as loud now, divided, distracted.
He says, we are arguing over sides while forgetting souls. That line that really hit me. Forgetting souls.
It's a dehumanization process. And he does touch on politics here, but very carefully. He says he's mostly stayed out of it.
Which, let's be honest, usually means I don't care.
Right, it usually signals apathy. But Perez claims it's humility. He says he never felt informed enough to argue policy specifics. He doesn't think he has the solution to, the healthcare crisis.
Which is actually really refreshing.
It is. But he does draw a line. He says, still, I know enough to recognize what we should never become. And he uses the Super Bowl as a backdrop to lay down a rule of engagement.
This is the quote that I think anchors this entire discussion. He writes, you don't have to love my culture. You don't have to wave my flag. Just don't spit on it.
Just don't spit on it. It's so visceral, isn't it?
It really is. Why do you think he chose that image? Spitting? Why not? Don't ignore it. Or don't dislike it.
Because spitting is an act of pure contempt. It's about dignity. Perez is making a crucial distinction between disagreement and disrespect.
Okay.
Disagreement is intellectual. It's inevitable. We disagree on things. But disrespect is an active attempt to say you are less than human, to deny your dignity.
He's setting a very low bar then. He's not asking for celebration or even acceptance.
Not at all. He's just asking for basic non-aggression.
And yet, as he points out, we seem to trip over that bar constantly.
We do. We're in an era of what political scientists call affective polarization.
Affective polarization. What's that?
So regular polarization is, I disagree with your policies. Affective polarization is, I hate you as a person because of your policies. We don't just think the other side is wrong. We think they're evil.
And Perez is trying to pull us back from that cliff. He says when everything becomes political, nothing is personal. And if nothing's personal, nobody's listening.
You can't. You're in defense mode. If I think you're about to spit on my flag, metaphorically or literally, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to fight you.
So how do we get there? It feels like a runaway train. Perez pivots to a theological perspective to find an answer.
Yes, and he's really smart about how he does it. He clears the air first. He knows the baggage. He writes, terrible things have been done in the name of God. He mentions wars dressed up as righteousness.
He's not blind to the problem.
Not at all. Which gives him more standing when he tries to boil it all down. He says there's no fine print to his faith. He reduces it to just 2 rules.
Rule 1, love God.
Rule 2, love your neighbor.
It sounds, almost too simple, like a bumper sticker.
It does, but simple is very hard to execute. He's frustrated with all the debate. He says, and yet we trip over something so small and so sacred.
To make his point, he uses a thought experiment, which I love. He asks you to imagine if Jesus walked the earth today, right now, in 2026.
It's a fascinating image, Jesus on a cable news panel.
Right, what does he do? And Perez argues he wouldn't fit into our boxes. He wouldn't pick a party. He wouldn't wear a red hat or a blue hat. He wouldn't be on Twitter owning the opposition.
No. Perez writes that he would kneel beside the hurting and just say, take care of each other.
Take care of each other. It completely bypasses the whole ideological debate. It says, you personally, right now, take care of the person next to you.
It's a shift from macro politics to micro compassion, and that connects all the way back to the 2 flags. If your priority is just humanity, you don't have to choose between being Puerto Rican or American. You just belong to one another.
So let's zoom out. Let's look at the whole picture he's painted. We started with the flags, the dancing one and the dusty one, and we learned a heart can hold multiple chapters.
Then we traveled the back roads and used the contact hypothesis to see how noise becomes home once you actually live the story. You have to go there.
And finally, we drew that hard line, the don't spit on it rule. Disagreement is fine, disrespect is not. And the ultimate simplification, love your neighbor, no fine print.
The through line in all of it is a refusal to dehumanize. Whether it's a culture, a genre of music, or a political opponent, Purr is just saying, come closer.
He ends his writing with what he calls a stubborn truth. And I think stubborn is the perfect word there. You have to be stubborn to hold on to love when the world is this angry.
So what's the truth?
He says before borders, before beliefs, before sides, he holds on to one thing. I love you.
It's a disarming idea. If you just looked at a stranger, someone you disagree with, and thought, I love you, it changes the whole interaction.
It really does. It acknowledges that we are, to use his phrase, chapters of the same heart.
A recognition of shared humanity.
So we want to leave you with a challenge today. We always like to give you something to actually do with this.
Right. If it's true that exposure softens the heart and that we judge what we have never touched, we want you to do a little audit.
What is something in your life right now that you are judging from a distance? Is there a neighborhood you always drive around? A type of music you mock? A coworker you avoid because you think they're one of those people?
Identify that noise, identify the thing you're keeping at arm's length, and then just see if you can get a little closer.
Maybe take a drive. Maybe just listen a little closer. You might find out that it sounds a little bit like home.
It's definitely worth a shot.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Take care of each other.